I don't know if I'm ready to deal with this. Goodbye.
I don't know if I'm ready to deal with this. Kevin didn't lower his voice, not enough. The whole restaurant didn't hear it. But Rachel did. And that was more than enough. She didn't react immediately. Not because she didn't know what to say, but because that kind of phrase wasn't new. It was just another variation of something she had heard before, with different words, different tones, but always carrying the same idea disguised as honesty. Rachel Simmons had learned to spot that from a mile away, and over time, she had learned to ignore it. Ignoring isn't something you decide to do all at once. It's not a moment of strength. It's a slow process, built on small episodes that pile up until they become instinct. The look in the elevator that lasts a second longer than it should. The waiter who talks to the person next to you, even when you were the one who ordered. The kid pointing at the grocery store, and the mom pulling their arm without explaining anything. At first, you react. Then, you respond. Eventually, you save your energy. Rachel was 29. She had been in a wheelchair since she was 19, a car accident on a snowy night in Minneapolis that she rarely described. Not because it hurt to remember, but because she had explained it enough times to know that people were more interested in the drama than in what came after. And what came after was what really mattered. She had been working as an executive assistant at Caldwell and Associates for 3 years. And she wasn't just good. She was the kind of person who kept everything running. Flawless memory. 2 languages besides English. The ability to organize the chaos of schedules that changed by the hour without missing a single detail. She made a billionaire's routine look simple. The billionaire was named Daniel Caldwell. Rachel didn't think much about him outside of work. He was the boss, demanding, direct, rarely unfair, and most importantly, never condescending. That, for Rachel, was rare. Rarer than it should be. Previous bosses always went through the same phase: exaggerated kindness, unnecessary care, that uncomfortable attempt to prove they were good people before even knowing if she needed anything. As if the wheelchair was their emotional problem, not hers. Daniel didn't do any of that. On her first day, he looked at her and asked if the desk height was okay. She said yes. He nodded. And 5 minutes later, she already had an email with the week's agenda. No speeches, no tension, no performance. It was exactly what she needed. On that Friday in October, Rachel was sitting in an Italian restaurant in downtown Chicago called Vesper. It was the app's suggestion. Neutral, accessible, well-rated. She already knew the ritual. Check the entrance, confirm the restroom, ensure space between tables, things nobody mentioned. But that determined whether a night would go smoothly or not. Her date was named Kevin. They had been talking for 2 weeks. He seemed normal, funny enough, interested without being invasive, and most importantly, he hadn't asked uncomfortable questions about the chair right from the start, which by itself already put him above average. Rachel arrived with low expectations, but honest ones. That quiet expectation of someone who has been disappointed enough not to build illusions, but hasn't given up completely. Kevin arrived 6 minutes late. She recognized him right away. Light hair, average height, blue jacket. He saw her and stopped, just for a second. But Rachel knew that second. It was the exact moment when the picture from the profile, framed, controlled, comfortable, met the full reality. Some people hide it well. Kevin didn't hide it. He pulled himself together quickly, walked to the table, sat down, smile in the wrong place. The conversation started out acceptable, work, the city, safe topics. But there was something in his tone, an artificial lightness, like he was trying to prove to himself that he was comfortable. Then the waiter arrived. asked what they would like to drink. Kevin ordered normally. When the waiter turned to Rachel, he answered for her. "She'll have sparkling water," he said, smiling. "And maybe you could help with the menu, depending on the angle. It might be a bit hard for her." Rachel looked at him, not surprised, just registering it. Then she turned to the waiter. "A glass of Barolo, please." "If you have it." A pause. "And I'm perfectly fine with the menu. Thank you." The waiter wrote it down. No reaction, no awkwardness, and walked away. Kevin gave a short laugh. "I was just trying to help." Rachel held his gaze for a second longer than was comfortable. "I know." A pause. "But helping isn't deciding for me." She changed the subject, but the pattern was already there. Over the next 20 minutes, it showed up in different ways, small ones, almost invisible to anyone who doesn't know how to spot them. Kevin finished sentences she hadn't even completed yet, repositioned things on the table without asking, tilted the menu as if she couldn't hold it herself. And then came the question. "The place you went for the concert, was it accessible?" His tone wasn't mean, it was curious, but it carried something underneath, as if her life was a logistical equation before it was an experience. Rachel put down her fork, looked at him. She was about to answer, for real this time, without softening it. That's when she heard the voice. From across the restaurant. It wasn't loud, but there was something about it that cut through the room effortlessly. Clear, controlled, familiar. Rachel didn't need to look to know who it was, and for a second, she wished she was wrong, but she wasn't. Daniel Caldwell was 6 feet away. Rachel hadn't noticed him when she walked in. Vesper was built for that. Low light, calculated shadows, tables that felt like islands separated from the rest of the world. But he was there. Dark suit, no tie, an untouched glass of wine in front of him, and a folded document that clearly wasn't being read. He had already noticed, long before she realized. Their eyes met for a second. It was enough. Rachel felt that specific discomfort, not of being watched, but of being seen outside the place where she controlled everything. At the office, she mastered every detail. Here, she didn't. She gave a minimal nod, almost invisible. He responded the same way, expressionless, without curiosity, but also without looking away too quickly like the others did. Kevin didn't notice a thing. Kevin was too busy being Kevin. He was talking about a hiking trail, about altitude, about overcoming obstacles. Words that, in that context, tasted a bit ironic. Rachel had already learned to recognize that kind of conversation. A lot of sound, very little listening. Then dinner arrived, and that was when the situation went from uncomfortable to unacceptable. Rachel's plate was set down normally, but Kevin didn't even wait 3 seconds. He grabbed the silverware, repositioned it, pulled her plate closer, adjusted everything as if he were setting the table for someone incapable, without asking, without hesitating, without realizing. Rachel felt her body go entirely still for a second, not out of weakness, out of control. "Do you want me to cut that for you?" he asked, already leaning halfway toward her. Rachel stopped moving, looked up, and answered with a calmness that didn't come easily. "I have 2 perfectly functioning arms." Pause. "And I'm an executive assistant at a top-tier firm. My hands are probably the most competent part of my body." The sentence landed on the table, heavy, precise. Kevin laughed, that laugh, the laugh of someone who realizes their mistake, but not enough to back down. "I'm just trying to help." Rachel held his gaze. Helping is when someone asks for it. The rest is just assuming. Silence. The kind that doesn't go back to normal. Kevin looked away, poked at his food, but he didn't learn. Over the next few minutes, he kept going, interrupted her answers, explained things he didn't need to explain, asked about accessibility as if he were analyzing a logistical problem and not talking to a person. Rachel felt something shift inside her. It wasn't surprise, it wasn't sadness, it was recognition. She had been there before, many times, but then came the worst part. Kevin took a deep breath, as if he were about to say something important, and he said, "I think it's better to be honest." Rachel already knew, before the sentence even finished. "You seem amazing, smart, but I don't know if I'm ready for this." He gestured vaguely. All of this, the adaptations, the changes, it's a lot. And then, the final sentence, with an almost proud tone. "I really admire people like you." Rachel stayed silent, looking at him, without blinking, long enough for him to start feeling genuinely uncomfortable. Then she spoke, low, clear, controlled. "I am not a project." Pause. "I am not a list of adaptations." Another second. "I am the woman who chose this wine, who got here by herself, who organizes the life of one of the busiest men in Chicago every single day, flawlessly." She leaned in slightly. The problem was never the logistics. Now, direct, it was you. Total silence. Kevin didn't answer. He had no answer. And it was in that moment that a chair moved nearby, unhurried, without unnecessary noise, but impossible to ignore. Daniel Caldwell stood up. He didn't look at Kevin first. He looked at Rachel, like someone confirming something. Not pity, not doubt, confirmation. Then, only after that, he turned his head. "Excuse me." His voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. It was the kind of voice that doesn't compete for space. It simply occupies it. Daniel Caldwell was already standing. He didn't rush. There was no rush in the way he moved. And that, more than any word, commanded attention. People who need to prove something move fast. Daniel didn't. He looked at Rachel first. It wasn't a look of curiosity, nor concern. It was a reading look, as if he were confirming something he had suspected for a while. And then, only after that, he turned to Kevin. "Excuse me." The voice was low, controlled, but there was a subtle detail there. It wasn't a request. It was an interruption authorized by his very presence. Kevin blinked, confused. Daniel continued. "I overheard part of the conversation." Short pause. Enough of it. He took a light step toward the side of the table. He didn't invade their space, didn't lean on anything, but somehow, the entire dynamic shifted. "And it seems to me you're dragging out something that's already over." Silence. No aggressive tone, no provocation, just precision. Kevin frowned. "Excuse me, who are you?" Daniel didn't answer right away. That slight delay had more of an impact than any sentence could. Then he said, "Daniel Caldwell." Nothing else, no explanation, no job title, no effort, just the name. And he stayed silent, waiting. The recognition came slowly. First, doubt. Then, the association. And then, the real discomfort. Kevin shifted in his chair. His whole body made an involuntary adjustment. I wasn't... Daniel raised his hand slightly, not to tell him to stop, but to end it. No need to explain. Another second. This isn't a negotiation. That landed heavy, because Kevin understood exactly what it meant. He wasn't being confronted. He was being dismissed. Daniel then glanced quickly at the table, at the untouched plate, at the wine, and back to Kevin. The night is too good for this. Simple, final, with no room for a reply. And then he walked away, went back to his own table as if nothing had happened, without looking back, without checking for a reaction, like someone who had walked out of much bigger meetings than that one. The silence left behind was different, cleaner. Kevin looked at Rachel. But now there was no more confidence in his eyes, only discomfort. He pulled out his wallet too fast, left cash on the table, more than he needed to, tried to say something. My bad, But the sentence found no place to exist. Rachel didn't help, didn't soften it, didn't rescue him. Kevin nodded to himself, as if he had been understood, and left, without looking back. Rachel sat in silence. The restaurant went back to normal around her. Conversations, silverware, low laughter, but the table still carried the weight of what had just happened. She looked at the glass of Barolo, swirled the wine gently, didn't drink, just breathed. Then, from the next table, "Are you all right?" Daniel's voice was different now, less public, more direct. Rachel turned her head slightly. "I am." Pause. "Thank you." He tilted his head slightly. "I didn't do anything." Another second. "I just said what was already obvious." Rachel held his gaze. Sometimes, the obvious needs someone with reach. A half smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, not out of humor, out of recognition. He understood exactly what she meant. They stayed silent for a moment, and then he said, "Can I make a proposal?" Rachel raised an eyebrow slightly. "My company canceled." He pointed discreetly to the empty table in front of him. "And eating alone on a Friday in this place has a specific level of failure." Pause. "Can I fix that?" Rachel looked at him. Not immediately. She evaluated, like she always did. But there was something different there. He wasn't trying to impress, nor overcompensate, nor take the lead. He was offering. Simple as that. She glanced at her bottle, then back to him. "You can bring the wine." Daniel didn't bring his glass. He brought the whole bottle, without asking, but also without presuming. He just placed it on the table carefully and sat down. Now on the same level, without distance, without an audience. The conversation started unhurriedly, without formal introductions, without that social theater of dates. He observed her for a moment before speaking. "Your Italian is good." Rachel looked up. "You recognized it?" "Enough to know it's not memorized." Pause. "Where did you learn?" She leaned back slightly in her chair. "Florence, 8 months, a second, before the accident." He nodded. "Didn't ask for details. That didn't go unnoticed. It was the best phase of my life," she continued. "Sometimes I still dream in Italian." Daniel took that in, like someone filing it away. "I tried to learn Spanish twice, and failed both times," she finished. He let out a small breath through his nose. "I failed." "It's not a lack of ability," she said. "It's a lack of tolerance." He tilted his head. "Tolerance for what?" Rachel answered without hesitating. "For looking incompetent." Silence, short but full. Daniel stared at her for a second longer than normal. Not uncomfortably, just attentively. "You say that at the office too?" She shrugged. "I think that everywhere." Another brief silence. Then he said, "I know." And this time, it wasn't casual. It wasn't an observation. It was a statement of fact, from someone who had been paying attention for far too long for it to be strictly professional. And Rachel noticed, not right then, but in the kind of silence that lingered afterward. On Monday, the office was exactly what it always was. Predictable, controlled, safe. Rachel arrived at 8:15, as always, turned on her computer, opened the schedule, reorganized the day before the first email even arrived. 3 meetings confirmed, 1 rescheduled, 2 conflicts avoided before they even existed. Everything in its place, as it should be. Daniel arrived at 8:45, punctual as a habit. Good morning, good morning. He grabbed his coffee, went into his first meeting, and on the outside, nothing had changed. But Rachel knew. Not because he did anything, but because she felt it. There was a subtle difference, not in the space between them, but inside her. A new awareness. Inconvenient, hard to ignore. She spent the whole morning doing what she always did, while avoiding thinking about what she didn't want to organize. Because organizing that meant naming it, and naming it made it real, and real complicated everything. Rachel wasn't naive. She never had the luxury of being naive. She built her career like someone building a structure that cannot fail. Visible competence, clear boundaries, zero ambiguity. Because ambiguity, for her, was never neutral. It was a risk. Woman, wheelchair, corporate environment. She learned early on that if she left any blank space, someone else would fill in the narrative for her, and almost never the right way. So she didn't leave any. Never. On Friday, there was a glitch in that system, and she knew it. That's why. On Monday, she took all of it. The dinner, the conversation, the look, and put it away. She didn't ignore it. Rachel wasn't the kind of person who pretended something didn't happen. She filed it, put it in a place where it could exist without interfering, and went back to work. The problem was that Daniel didn't file it. On Wednesday, he showed up with 2 coffees, didn't say anything, just placed one on her desk and kept walking, without looking, without pausing, as if it wasn't a big deal. But it was. Rachel looked at the cup for a second longer than she should have. Didn't touch it right away, because touching it meant acknowledging it. On Thursday, he walked past her desk, already in motion. Did you finish the book? Simple, direct, as if they were picking up an interrupted conversation. Finished it yesterday. She answered without looking up much. I want to know what you thought of it. He said that while already walking away, without waiting for an answer, but leaving something in the air, a thread, and Rachel noticed, not because of the isolated gesture, but because of the pattern. She was trained for this. It was literally her job. Small patterns, discrete repetitions, deviations from baseline behavior, and that was a deviation. On Thursday afternoon, the deviation turned into intention. He called her in for a meeting, and Rachel knew the very second that there was no meeting, because it wasn't on the schedule, and nothing made it onto the schedule without going through her. Nothing. She knocked on the door, walked in. What's the meeting about? Direct. No beating around the bush. Daniel didn't answer right away. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was calculated. He seemed to be choosing the exact way to say what he needed to. I'm going to ask you something, he finally said. Pause. And it might be inappropriate. Another second. If it is, you tell me, and I'll never bring it up again. Rachel didn't look away. All right. Now the silence was different, shorter, more direct. Friday was different. He didn't soften it, didn't try to rephrase it. And I'm having a hard time pretending it wasn't. That wasn't an impulse. It was an admission. Rachel stayed silent, long enough for anyone else to try and fill the gap. But not her. Inside her. 3 things happened at once. The professional, listing all the reasons to shut that down immediately. The rational side, reminding her that relationships like this rarely end simply. And a third side, quieter, more honest, tired of ignoring things that were real just because they were inconvenient. She took a breath. It was different, without dramatizing, without denying. She held his gaze. But I need you to understand something. Now there was firmness. I don't want to be a story. Pause. I don't want to be the woman who overcame everything. Another second. I don't want this to be about the chair. She leaned forward slightly. If anything happens, it needs to be between two people. Simple. Not between a man and a circumstance. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was an evaluation. Daniel nodded. I understand. Rachel didn't soften. No. She kept her eyes on him. You think you understand? Another second. I'll only believe it when you prove it. That wasn't a challenge. It was a condition. He didn't back down. What do you need? Direct, undefensive, egoless, Rachel thought. Not for long. Because the answer was already there. Time. Time didn't move forward in grand moments. It moved the way real life moves. Ordinary days, repeated, almost forgettable, but which, added up, change everything. October turned into November, and on the outside, nothing had moved out of place. Rachel kept arriving at 8:15, Daniel at 8:45, meetings, emails, decisions that affected millions, resolved between one coffee and the next, efficiency intact, professionalism intact. But there was something new there, not visible, but constant, a mutual attention that didn't need to be named to exist. Their first dinner happened in November. This time, not by chance, without interruptions, without an audience. Rachel picked the place, and Daniel didn't ask anything. No remarks about accessibility, no attempts to anticipate difficulties. He simply showed up, and that said more than any effort would have. In December, there was a night at the office, the building empty, lights dimmed. A contract that should have taken an hour and took 3, not because of the work, but because, at some point, the conversation stopped being about clauses and started being about things that weren't written anywhere. And neither of them stopped it. But it wasn't simple. It never is. There was a meeting, an external partner, a joke, subtle enough to be denied, clear enough to be felt, targeted, calculated. Rachel didn't react. She had already learned not to react at the wrong time. But Daniel reacted, not right there, not publicly. He just shut the meeting down 10 minutes later, without explanation, without a speech. But the email that followed, Rachel never read it. She didn't need to. She saw the effect, and understood. There was a night when she called her mom, stayed silent on the other end of the line for far too long, not for lack of words, but because some things don't fit into an explanation. You have to live inside them to understand, and that isn't always possible. And then came January, unannounced, unprepared, the way real things usually come. Daniel walked past her desk, like he always did, placed a coffee next to her, like he had done other times, but this time, he stopped for a second longer. Not enough to catch the attention of anyone walking by, just enough to change everything. I thought about it. Simple, truly. Pause, and I want to try. Another second. If you still want to. No speech, no promise, no attempt to convince. Just truth. Rachel finished what she was typing, saved the file, adjusted her screen. Small gestures of someone who needs an extra half second to keep control. Then she looked up. I know. Calm. I thought about it too. A second. And I still want to. She picked up her coffee. So yes. And went back to work. There was no music. There was no perfect movie scene. Because what came next wasn't perfect. There were differences different rhythms, different histories, things that needed explaining, and others relearned. There were days when Rachel had to stop and say, "That's not how it works," and days when Daniel listened, truly listened, without interrupting, without correcting, without defending himself. There were hard conversations about work, about boundaries, about what could stay the same, and what needed to change for that to exist outside the context that created them. But there was something there, something rare, an unembellished honesty, without performance, without that constant need to seem like something. They weren't trying to impress each other, nor convince, nor prove. They were present, and that, by itself, was already different from everything else. Rachel didn't forget Vesper, not the humiliation part. That stayed where things like that stay, registered, but powerless. But she also didn't forget the aftermath, the bottle of wine, Florence, the exact moment she realized the man she had known for 3 years wasn't just that. Sometimes you go out to dinner expecting one thing and find something completely different. Rachel learned, after everything, that the answer isn't to be suspicious. It's also not to romanticize. It's something harder, rarer, paying attention. And she was always very good at that. If this story kept you hooked until here, if at any point you saw yourself in it, if you've ever had to swallow something nobody noticed, then hit subscribe, because there's more, and some stories arrive exactly when we need them. See you in the next video.